Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, which is Explore Yourselves, Banking and General Knowledge, etc. From Mailroom to Corner Office, A Banker's Journey by Dr. R. Srinivasan. This is the cover page of the book. Today, that is 24th June 2025, I am sharing episode 10. These are the YouTube links for episode 1, 2, and 3. These are for you. These are for the episode 4, 5, and 6, and further for episode 7, 8, and 9. Personal life. Personal life continuing from episode 9. During those years, the Dravida Kazhagam political party founded by Periyar E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar got split, and the splinter group headed by C.N. Annadurai was called Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam. 1949, due to Periyar's marriage in with Manya Ammai, a woman who could be of his daughter's age. It was DK who started the movement under the banner of Rationalist Movement, which degenerated into an anti-Brahmin movement. This DMK party made some sensational programs to build their party and cadres. One was the anti-Hindi agitation and the other anti-Brahmin agitation. The anti-Brahmin agitation was started under the leadership of Periyar even before the party split. Periyar's slogan ran something like this: if you find a Brahmin and a serpent at the same time, first kill the Brahmin and then the serpent. This sort of racial hatred has worked up among the cadres until it went to the extent of the Brahmins being hounded out of the state of Madras, now Tamil Nadu. Brahmins who belonged to the old school of thought wore a sacred thread like a police officer wears his cross belt, and those who were more oriented towards orthodoxy kept a tuft of hair on their head and did not forget to put on their forehead their caste mark. The DK and later the DMK fought these Brahmins as though they were their enemies. The cadres were directed to cut the sacred thread and the tuft that were the identification of the Brahmins. They were not the type who can stand up and have a physical fight. The other group always had ruffians and gundas who did not mind getting arrested and put behind bars because such acts were considered as a great victory for them. Hotels serving food or snacks were mainly run by Brahmins. Generally, it was believed that Brahmin hotels served delicious and clean food. They were particular in mentioning on the signboards that theirs is a Brahmin hotel. This was targeted by DK and DMK. Volunteers held protest demonstration in front of such hotels. Customers trying to enter for food or lodging were persuaded to go elsewhere. They also brought cans of tar and went up to the signs and painted black over the words Brahmin Hotel. While many hotels meekly submitted to these dictates and voluntarily removed the words from their boards, there was one Murali Cafe in Triplicane, a predominantly Brahmin populated area, and was also well known for the famous Parthasarathi temple. The proprietor was a tough man and did not want to submit to the arm twisting tactics of DK and DMK. He made it a point to employ muscle men to shoo away the demonstrators. He also kept boiling water at the first floor level and poured them on the demonstrators. He was even prepared to pour hot oil on them. For our group of friends, incidentally all of us were Brahmins, the proprietor of the Murali Cafe was a hero and deserved our moral support. We therefore made it a point to walk about 4 miles from our houses and go to this hotel and eat some snacks, ignoring the protest demonstrations. We felt as though We had done a great service to the cause of Brahmins by doing this. Watching movies was another pastime our group indulged in occasionally. Many times we walked to the cinema and after watching the movie we walked back home after having something to eat in a nearby hotel. I had accompanied this group but felt like a stupid man when I did not follow English movies and did not understand why suddenly the whole cinema hall erupts into laughter. Unfortunately, this handicap still holds good for me and I hardly follow English movies. I think I am unable to follow the dialogues because of the accent. Sometimes, when I had gone to movies with Shrikant or Shivats, they try to help me understand the movie better. But such instances are very rare. Rarer is still is going to English movie with Sridhar. Now my grown-up grandchildren Jubi and Ishan try to translate English movies to me in understandable English when they watch them with me. Sridhar, Shrikant, and Shivats are my sons, and Jubi and Ishan are my granddaughter and grandson through Sridhar. Once our group went to see a film in Tamil called Avaiyar. This was a film produced by Gemini Studios belonging to late S.S. Vasan, a name associated with quality cinemas. The release of the film was preceded by a lot of advertisement and it created great expectations from the public. On the day the picture was released in 1953, there was unprecedented crowds in front of every cinema where this movie was being shown. It was very difficult to procure tickets. We went from one cinema to another as the picture was released simultaneously in several theaters. Ultimately, I was asked to somehow get the tickets. I approached the manager and told him that I was a relative of a senior officer in the police department and that my friends and I want to see the show. The manager obliged and we were happy to go in and see the movie. It was a narrative of Avaya, the female poet who sang many devotional songs and gave us simple rules of righteous living. For instance, she said, desire to do right things, control your anger, don't stop anyone from giving alms, eat after you have given some food to some soul. It is degrading to beg. Reading and writing are like our eyes, figures, and letters are our two eyes. Lead an exemplary life. Do not stop singing God's praise. Don't be a hypocrite. And so on. Avvayar was a great scholar and sang inspirational songs spontaneously. She was devoted to Lord Kartikeya or Shanmukha or Muruga, who is the second son of Lord Shiva and the goddess Parvati, the first son being Ganesha or Ganapati. In the movie, a scene depicts how Avvayar comes face to face with Muruga and they are engaged in an argument when he asks questions and Avvayar replies by singing the answers. The whole scene is so heartrending that by the time it was ending, I was so emotionally charged that I started weeping uncontrollably. Maybe it was because in those days I specially prayed to Muruga on the advice of some well wishers to overcome some domestic problems. Avvaya's role was acted by a great singer of those years, the late Kodumudi Balambal Sundarammal. There was another movie that also moved me to tears, which was the Tamil version of Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. There again, the actor Chittar V. Nagaya played the role superbly. Much later in life, when my wife and I went to see a Tamil movie that was about the affection between a brother and sister, the closing scene was so touching that once again I was uncontrollably emotional. I became so grim that from the very moment we left the theatre and returned home, I did not speak a single word to my wife. I think it all happened that way because only a few weeks or months earlier, my younger sister Kalyani broke off her relationship with her husband and came back to our house. Our entire family was in such bad condition of facing this situation that it took me several days before I could come back to normal life. The roles of brother and sister were played by Sivaji Ganeshan and Savitri, both of whom were renowned artists. The film was titled Pasa Malar, meaning affectionate flower. The Free Indian Society Library had good collection of books by contemporary writers. I had also held the position of a librarian in the society for some time. The office bearers of the society, such as the president or secretary or the librarian, went to every known publisher of books and bargained for concession in the price because we were running a library with meager financial resources. In this process, I came into contact with some well known authors. This involvement instilled in me the habit of reading books. Initially, I was reading books in the Tamil language, and when I started reading English books, I was picking only detective stories by authors like early Stanley Gardner. At one stage, I had completed all of his Perry Mason stories, or Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Later, I read books by Alexander Dumas. I also remember having run through the complete works of Shakespeare one after another. I still do not know how much I understood. The last few pages were certainly some digression. Let me resume from the point where we decided to inform the headmaster about our decision. We had conveyed through my elder sister that I liked the girl, his eldest daughter named Sulochana, and that if he and his family agreed, we could proceed further. I learned after several years that Sulochana did not really show much interest in me. She seemed to have said that it was too early for her to get married. She was strongly persuaded to accept this alliance as, according to some Sanskrit language teacher in the school, my horoscope was one of the rare specimens and that she would be doing a right thing to agree. Her parents had also impressed upon her that there were two more sisters in their family to get married, and unless she got wed and moved away, the other daughters would have to wait. Another argument advanced by Sulochana's father was that he was nearing his age of retirement, and once he superannuates, he going around in search of suitable boys would become difficult. Thus, the matter was decided. The issue remained in limbo for a while. Seshari Iyengar, who is Sulochana's father, sister-in-law's husband, called M.S. Vedantam Iyengar, was working for Brook Bond India Limited and was heading the distribution network at Vellore in the North Arcot district. Vedantam was sent to visit us in Madras and find out whether I was a proper match for Sulochana. He came to our house in Krishnan Koil Street and spent some time gathering all the information he needed. In these matters, many times things are exaggerated and a rosy picture is painted to impress each other. I was not involved in the discussion that the elders were having. From my family's side, my mother was more dominant in these conversations as my father was not supposed to know the technique of handling marriage negotiations. It would appear that Vedantam had carried back agreeable news about our family. He was also supposed to have paid a visit to the place of my work without my knowledge and made some discreet inquiries. After Vedantam's visit, there were some more days of silence. Ultimately, Sheshadri Iyengar himself paid a visit to us in Madras. While he was going back, I remember going down from our upstairs flat to see him off. We walked for a while. He had his hand on my shoulder, and during the walk, slowly brought down his hand to my back and was feeling whether I had a strong backbone. In fact, I was rather thin and not too muscular. He must have been disappointed if he was searching for some muscle and only found bones instead. In those days, the dowry system was prevalent. A dowry is what the parents of the girl give as gifts at the time of the marriage. If the gifts were given voluntarily, there could be no great objection. But what was prevalent was the system of the bridegroom's side demanding bounties for taking the bride. It almost amounted to buying the bridegroom, and the momentary monetary value of various things given at the time of marriage amounted to the dowry. This system is antisocial and illegal, but even today it is prevalent, and the law enforcement agencies turn a blind eye when they come to know of such a thing happening. Sometimes these agencies use such occasions to enrich themselves too. According to the according to the then existing practice, my mother seems to have been negotiating for the deal with the father of Sulochana. Sheshadri Iyengar was a man of principles and was very careful about money matters. He was not spending money on anything unnecessary. If I understood right, my mother seemed to have told the other side that all expenses for the bridegroom party's travel, stay, and incidentals should be taken care of by them, and that in addition they should also give some money for getting me my marriage clothes, etc. In retrospect, it smacks of squeezing money out of the hapless girl's parents. Many a marriages have stopped before getting solemnized or broken thereafter in India due to this obnoxious dowry system. If a marriage stops or gets broken later, the society did not sympathize with the wronged party. It usually happens to be the girl's side. Adding fuel to the fire is that the girl becomes an object of ridicule and her life becomes extremely difficult thereafter. Thus, after a lot of hesitation, Shishadri Iyengar accepted that his daughter would be married to me. Next followed the exercise of finding out an auspicious date and time for the marriage. In Tamil Nadu, the best time for getting married is the month called Thai. This month corresponds to the English months of January and February, specifically from January 14 to February 15. 1. The climate is not very hot. The second reason is that the majority of the population in Tamil Nadu, which depends on agriculture, get their crops harvested and sell the produce in the market. They get money in hand and can use it for the annual expenses and for meeting costs such as celebrating the marriage of the kids, etc. Our marriage was fixed for February 10th, 1958. The venue was the house of Mr. M. S. Vedantam. He lived at 1 Reddyappa Mudali Street, Vellore. Our entourage consisted of family and friends numbering nearly 50 people. We reached Vellore on the afternoon of February 9, 1958. My previous generation witnessed marriages that were celebrated over a 5 day period. Every day they had some function connected with the marriage, and all the relatives and friends participated with gay abandon and enjoyed every moment of such occasions. Tamil Nadu, and especially the families that originated from Tanjavur district, had the dubious distinction of the bridegroom's party dominating and making the bride's party pitiable by making them do what is beyond their capacity to do. If we can compare those practices to the present day ragging in colleges by seniors that make juniors and freshers do what is demeaning and indecent, it would not be dissimilar. Due to the progress the country has been making, 5 days of celebrations gave way to almost a single day's function. In my case, there was a function on the eve of the marriage on February 9th, 1958. This is again a typical function meant more to introduce the bridegroom to the people in the locality. The bridegroom dresses for the occasion and is brought in a procession from either a temple or a nearby known place in an open car or a horse drawn carriage. Members of the bridegroom's party accompany the procession, which is received with all honors at the gate where the marriage is proposed to be solemnized. The members of the bride's party eagerly wait for the procession to arrive. When it does, the elderly from the group waiting to receive the bridegroom and his troop step forward and accord a ceremonial welcome to the other party and take them inside the house or hall where the function is to be held. The bridegroom is garlanded, and a pandit, who is usually the family pandit or purohit of the bride's family, makes an elaborate announcement about the background of the bride's family and the proposal to give the bride away to the bridegroom. He also mentions the background of the bridegroom and his family. He would have ascertained the details earlier. This announcement and in exchange of pleasantries and mementos marks the formal engagement. This ritual is known as Nichyatartham. This is followed by sumptuous dinner, and then the party's part to reassemble early next morning to solemnize the marriage. In my marriage, I recall there were moments of great anxiety about the completion of the marriage formalities. There were hush hush murmuring going on about fulfillment or otherwise of certain expectations of my mother. For me, it was a strange experience, and I was not able to intervene in the matter and sort things out. This attitude of mine was born out of the fear of my mother or an immense faith that she could do no wrong. When all was said and done, in retrospect, I certainly would like to record that I would have very much liked to have had a more pleasant and enjoyable experience than what transpired. Similar is the feelings of my wife, who never forgets the unpleasant moments of our wedding day. Thus, an important event in one's life went off with a lot of suppressed bitterness about my family and, more particularly, my mother. This bitterness did not get mitigated by the passage of time. On the other hand, more and more incidents occurred which by which this only became more deep rooted. I am writing this particular passage in the beginning of 2006, which is 48 years later I got married, and I can still feel the grief of my wife for all that she suffered under my mother and in our joint family. My wife can become very vocal to narrate incidents of harassment she went through during our initial years of marriage. She is very bitter about it, even after so many years. My parents took the decision of moving away from the Georgetown to West Mambalam just prior to the marriage. With the help of some of my friends, we were able to find a house in West Mambalam that is a suburb of about 6 or 7 miles from the city. We had moved into a house of 1 Erigauda Road. It was an independent house but had no protected water supply, the only source being well water. The area was very well known for its mosquitoes and dry latrines. The only luxury I had in that house was a very small room of around 8 by 5 feet for all for myself and my wife. Soon after the marriage, Sulochana was brought home. When we returned to the new house or when our marriage was consummated, our details not remembered by me. Based on the fact that our first child Shridhar was born on May 3, 1959, this should imply that there was a successful and quick consummation. Some of my friends from Georgetown had already moved to the same locality where our house was situated. This helped me to get acclimatized to the new environment without much difficulty. Mani, Kittu, and Rajam were prominent among them. On an open plot of land very close to my house, the local people have been celebrating the Ramanavami festival every year. This festival is one of the important events among the Hindus. Depending upon how much money they can spend, organizers celebrate this festival for 7 or 9 or 18 days or possibly even more. Functions such as religious discourse on the life of Sri Rama, the Hindu god, Vedaparayana, Laksharchanas, music, and bhajans mark these festivities. Prominent persons are invited to preside over these functions and inaugurate them. Thousands of people gather to watch these events every day, which normally started around 6 p.m. and went on till past midnight. There was an organization called Sri Ram Samaj, under whose auspices all these were conducted, and I enrolled myself as a volunteer there. Money for these celebrations had to be collected by donations from the public. The locality had several streets and lanes, and in order to cover the entire area, the volunteers formed themselves into smaller groups, and each group was given clear demarcation of the area to be covered by it. I got myself included in a team of only two people, Mr. K. Subramanian and myself. KS was one of the founders of Sri Ram's Samaj and was the secretary of the Samaj. He was working with the Bumrah Shell Company. By about 6 in the morning every day, we used to start our collection drive. Before going on this errand, we first would have finished our morning routine. Till about 8:30 or 8:45 a.m., we used to go house to house on foot and collect money. It was almost like begging, certainly not for ourselves, but for a common cause. Every paisa had collected had to be receipted and accounted for, and the receipts were issued on the spot. Collections used to be for as small a sum as 50 paise, which is half a rupee, and as high as rupees 5. If someone gave us rupees 5, we'll treat him as a great philanthropist and thank him profusely. Some may even ask us to come again and again and ultimately give us a rupee or two. Yet, out of the 5 or 6 different groups that went on this collection drive, it was our team that always got highest collection. While on this, I must record my deep grief that KS passed away a few months back. Another quirk or fate that is that a later date that I became the vice chairman of the same Indian Institute of Bankers, Governor, Reserve Bank of India by the chairman, being the chairman. By that time, the system of holding exams and the declaration of the results had undergone change to modernity. I was left with no chance to find out if the rumors described earlier were only rumors or was there any iota of truth in them. This para is quite out of place here. We should link it at the right place where we talked about how results of exams were decided. The arrival of my wife into my life changed my career in an unimaginable manner. She has been, and indeed still is, my sounding board on many matters in personal life. She came to a life in a joint family and faced all the hardships a young girl of 17 plus faced in those days, where in the family the mother in law was not very kind hearted soul and had an unmarried daughter to tell her day in and day out how the newcomer had to be kept under control. I will not pursue this family story any further. I will go back to my experiences in banks. The chapter Personal Life concluded. Next chapter will be Back to Banking. Thank you very much for your patience. Please like and share this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel.